All right. Well, I believe that's us. Hello. My name is Far-Fetched. I am joined by Son of Jupiter. And as you probably well know from the stream title and a wonderful overlay, that this is the BlueBird Rivals mini-series. I am very excited to cast this. Of course, it's Rocket League. It's 3v3s. It's best of fives. It's a lot of very fun action. How are you doing, Son of Jupiter?
Yeah, I've been pretty good. I had the great privilege of casting the qualifiers, so I know all the teams that are coming through. They all played really, really well over the last 2 weeks. So it's really exciting to see this mini league series come together because it's something cool that teams can strive towards. It gives them something to work towards while RSCS is happening. And honestly, massive shout out to Bluebird Rivals for putting it up.
Yeah, and like that's the thing which I've grown to really love about the Rocket League scene, right? Is the fact that a lot of these there's so much kind of going on. And we use the buzzword grassroots and esports and stuff like that all over the place. But generally speaking, there are so many different levels of competition and things like that, down to like local events, really casual events, to like the proper big, yeah, RLCS things like that, and a lot of spaces in between. I think it's something which is a huge testament to the community. And as you say, huge thanks to Bluebird Rivals for putting on and kind of just adding to that. I think it's gonna be fantastic. Would you like to give us a bit of an insight onto these first two teams then?
All right, so first two teams that we have going up today are going to be Relentless and Hazard, which very very good teams. Hazard actually a bit close to my heart. Cyrexel has always been a person that I've been able to talk to quite regularly, and he's very very talented. And with Negative and Schmoopinator, very very solid team. And obviously Relentless, you can't go past them. They're quite solid as well. Had a really good running in the qualifier, and I feel like they're gonna give Hazard a run for their money as well.
Yeah, and like that's the thing. Like you've got like kind of information from the qualifiers and things like that. But I'm interested to see now that we've taken a bit of time from that and we're actually into like the proper round robin format, which is going to be the case for this single round robin. And of course, top players making through like final stage. But yeah, I agree. I was actually going to say Sirexal is a player I've seen out and about and popping off in games and things like that. So definitely going to be a player to watch. But realistically, I think there's a lot of talent in both of these two teams. So very keen to see, furthermore how they kind of go. We should kind of, I think, go over a lot of this stuff. It's something which I think a lot of people might already know if you're following the Twitter, especially at Bluebird Rivals, all one word. You'll be able to get a lot of this information and more information on upcoming streams. But the general format of the tournament, like I said, single round robin. It is going to be every game a best of five, and they are playing for a prize pool of $250 split between the top three teams.
Mhm.
And I believe you've already contributed a bit to that prize pool as well.
I think so. I remember at one point donating some money towards it. So I just wanted to give back to the community. Obviously, I really believe in what these tournaments do for the community. So I always like having my little input. So yeah, we're just trying to make it as big as possible because at the end of the day, these guys have been working hard to get to where they are. And OCE as a whole is pretty small in terms of the region support. So any way that the community can get amongst it and help out is always going to be welcomed.
Yeah, and that's awesome. And of course, you can also, you watching at home, can also donate to help out our prize pool. And exactly as we are saying, it is a really essentially a lot of Rocket League is funded from the pockets and the generous time of people and organizers who are doing it for kind of the love of the scene, the love of the community. And it's a fantastic community. So if you have a little bit of money to spare to put into our prize pool, we have a graphic for to kind of have a look at like what the prize pool format's kind of going to be, and I'm sure there is a donation link in the chat or in the information there. So please, if if you have a bit, if you would also like to give back to the community, that is a fantastic way to do so. But yeah, we have like a full few weeks of games as well. I believe
Mm.
lined up. I don't know exactly how many games. I think we've got a few like 3 or so weeks left.
Yeah, so there's 3 weeks. Each week there's going to be at least 3 games. So today, all the teams are going to be playing twice. No, they're going to be playing 3 times today. But we'll only be casting 3 matches, and then next week they'll be playing twice. That way they can get all 5 rounds in 2 weeks. But we'll be casting 3 matches, so the matches will be staggered, so we can still get our 3 stream matches. And then in 3 weeks' time, 2 weeks' time, we'll have obviously the grand final series as well. So yeah, a lot of gameplay to come forth.
Yeah, and it should be good quality gameplay. Like I say, everyone I'm looking at on like these team lineups and things like that, I've seen play absolutely hugely. They are like phenomenally stacked teams. We're gonna see some very good Rocket League. I mean, I think there's like a lot of good events going on around like kind of the oceanic scene and whatnot.
Mm.
And this will just be adding to that. So realistically, I think hopefully everyone enjoys the games today. Of course, that is our aim. That is like the important thing for us is that people at home are enjoying it as much as we are putting it on, things like that. But yeah, I'm sure we will have a consistent run of good games. I believe we are going to be getting into game at some point soon. We are sitting in our lobby. Um,
Hmm.
so that is just like magic. It looks like we are jumping
There we
in.
go.
So here we are. I'm very excited for this one. We're going to have Relentless in the blue and Hazard off in the red. First game. I'm so excited. I didn't expect to be quite this excited. It was kind of a quiet Sunday, but you know what? That's a perfect time to watch some Rocket League.
Exactly. We always like the quality content on the weekend. Just chill back, relax, and enjoy the shows. We already have some hot action starting with Exodus trying to get a little bit of a play there. And Negative, who's recently taken to the Merc, almost a very Tango-inspired car. Doing a little bit of work there, not quite having an impact yet, but Schmoopinator will try and move that ball forward. But Exodus, someone that I really admire with his mechanical prowess, is able to get a couple of touches there as well.
Yeah, I love anyone who's willing to bring out the Merc. It's great. It's one of those cars that like I've known people running since like season 1, and at the time everyone was like, whatever, meme car. But it's seeing use, and I love it. Right now we're seeing a lot of contests back and forth. But a huge amount of control set up from these teams. I mean, generally we see like a more quiet game 1, right? You know, generally speaking, these first games kind of trying to feel their opponents out. You don't want to give up too much of an advantage early. Big custom Circle, but wasn't quite in a position where it was able to capitalize on that too much. There might be a big run up now from our blue team, from Relentless. Chris is in a decent position here, but he's going to find a defender, I think. Actually beats out a couple of them. So
Yeah, nice job there.
Here.
Exodus making a challenge, just trying to keep this pressure onto this orange side of the field. We're seeing Relentless being quite relentless in their attack at the moment, pun intended, as they try and lock this team in. But Schmoopinator now with a bit of an option, takes a shot. Exodus, though, does manage to get a save, and now the counter attack once again is on Chris, trying to flick, but can't. Trying to get up to Negative, who's pre-jumped quite early, doesn't have enough boost to follow, and we'll have to let that one drop. And again, we have Relentless trying to set up an attack, but for now, they're just not being that dangerous.
Yeah, I mean, like this is the thing I always say. I was saying before, right? Generally speaking, I see teams being a little bit more passive, I should say, early. Bit of an awkward position from some of these defenders here, holding a bit too far back potentially. A lot of players in the same static position, but they managed to get a clear out now. Schmoopinator is going to get a play off in front here, gets across, and Chris doesn't get a huge touch on that one, but at least it should disrupt the ball enough for this defense to get in reposition. They managed to get a nice little clear out of that one.
Axel, nice touch there, but it was read quite easily by Exodus, and now they're going to try and set up attack. Oh, the read by Exodus is going to set up an opportunity, but Kuma not being able to cut that fine enough. That was an opportunity missed there for Relentless, but they do have possession again and boost in hand, so they should be able to do something. But Chris not able to control it in the corner. That leaves Negative open, and that's going to be the first. Negative getting the first goal.
And it looked like there was a very nice subtle little touch on the in the goals there. Sirixel just kind of trying to mess up that one defending player, turning into that kind of 2v3 on attack. That did feel like that was what gets it across the line. So there we go. Hazard up 1 goal, starting to take a lead in this one. 2 minutes 23 seconds left. Surely plenty of time to try and get this one back, but it is a matter still of execution. Kuma goes up for a big one, does just get interrupted there, but not too much momentum being burned. I don't think Chris is in a position to get a redirect on that one, so Negative is going to carry it up. It's going to get a quick rotate as well, so Exodus and Kuma going to have to challenge that. Sirixel just gets batted out of the way, and it looks like that's going to be a safe clear out.
Yeah, it's going to be Kuma trying to pass that ball into the middle. One thing I'm noticing is that Relentless does have a lot more of the possession, but it seems like Hazard are taking a lot more advantage of the opportunities that they're having. We see, again, Schmoopinator just getting a nice 50 into contention for his team. Cyrexel already up for that ball. Gets a nice touch that he can follow, but Exodus with the momentum will win that 50. Negative, again, getting that 50 to advantage, trying to put the ball centered for his team. It can't quite cut the angle with 0 boost. Now it's going to be Relentless trying to set up for a counter.
And I mean, it's never easy when you're in that kind of 1v3 without the boost. Exodus almost gets a very nice touch there. Chris might have a shot on it, but it's going to be a bit harder when you've got like so many players. They've set up their defense, and it's kind of you versus the world. There's been a few situations in here, but never been too bad about that one. A nice high shot from Chris should just clear out wide pretty safely here. But yeah, that's the problem in Relentless. They're still having opportunities here, and like you're saying, they're holding the possession fantastically, but converted goals are essentially what the that's what the big number, the big stat is. Actually, like Schmoopinator trying to take a big contest against Chris here, and it's not quite working out. And once again, we've seen them get a bit of a lead here. It's gonna have to be disrupted by negative, but yeah, Relentless. They still have the ball, but they're still not scoring.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like Hazard are really sweating or feel pressured at all. A lot of their players are working out really well, and they're communicating effectively. You saw Negative challenging the ball instead of Cyrexel there, and that's just because he was in a better position. So very good comms coming out of this Hazard team, and it's showing with their 1-goal lead, as there we start to see a little bit of pressure rising. Negative getting that touch on the backboard. Sets up for Exodus, but he couldn't quite cut it. It's actually going to be a fake for Chris, and Chris is going to be the one to get the equalizer.
Yeah, that was a I was not expecting Chris to be able to pull this one off the double touch of the back wall. Actually, double touch of Schmoopinator, I was watching it from a bit of an awkward angle, just being able to like cover that smother. Ram not intended. And there they are, they find one, and they've managed to break this this scoring open. If they can keep the control in this game up and try and put that pressure on Haz, make them sweat like you were talking about. They've got a good shot in this one, 30 seconds. Reasonable chance we take this one to an overtime already with only one game under our belt so far.
Yeah, it could be. It would be an interesting start to have game 1 overtime, especially for our first match of the mini league series. It'd be very kind of funny to have such a close series for the setup for the remaining of the tournament. It's going to have the final 10 seconds with Negative just trying to clear the ball, clear a bit of pressure because they're feeling it at the moment. Schmoopinator does manage to get a touch there, but Chris is going to put it in a good spot. Exodus is up, but he hits it to the wrong side, and we will have our first overtime.
There we are, game 1 overtime. I kind of like this. I'm kind of excited. Both teams not overextending too much. I mean, I have a habit of ending up with these huge overtimes in these tournaments, and I'd kind of be into it at the moment. This like kind of back and forth, neither team getting too much skill up. Exodus just finds and Schmoopinator able to kind of clear it. Never mind, 14 seconds in. I thought we'd have to buy a bit more time than that, but Exodus just gets this cross very nicely, passed off from Kuma, and it feels like a bit of a misplay in the defense from Hazard. Hadn't quite set up yet, but still a nice goal.
I think the hardest thing there was Negative was trying to control the ball a little bit better than he was, and he got a heavy touch, which allowed for Relentless to come through with the counter. So Kuma just dishing it off to Exodus, getting that goal. So it's a bit unfortunate there because it was resulting off a bit of a, like I said, a mistouch by Negative, but it's early signs. So it's really good to see that Hazard were able to control the space quite effectively. Relentless towards the end, they were just capitalizing on a few extra opportunities. And we can see that with the shot percentage as well. There was 8 shots compared to 5. So Relentless definitely having more influence on offense.
And like, I mean, I've said it a couple of times, or we've said it a couple of times already, but like you pointed out at the pretty much the beginning of the game where you're talking about how the fact that Relentless has had such a good possession. The one thing I kind of does frustrate me a little bit about Rocket League is the fact that you don't always get these like possession percentages and things like that. You can't just have like forward percentage and stuff, because that's a great stat to track. And I think in a lot of these situations, Relentless had the ball for like, what, 75% of that game? And it was just those misexecutions on the attack, things like that, which realistically gives Relentless an easy kind of improvement path. Whereas for Hazard, maybe there's a few more things to kind of think about.
I mean, yeah, definitely. Yeah, I feel like Relentless definitely having more control will give them more opportunity. I think that Hazard, their whole structure is based around exploding from their defense. So really focus on those counterattacks. And if they're able to execute well and they're able to hold bay that Relentless attack, then they should be able to walk away with it. It's when Relentless start to get a bit creative with their attacking presence and they're going for those fakes or those, center passes that we're starting to see Hazard, kind of fall apart a little bit. So it'd be interesting to see how they adapt because, as I was saying, Hazard very, very good on the counterattack.
Yeah, and to be fair, actually, as well, like Hazard, you're talking about tricky plays coming in from Relentless, but Hazard's already had a couple of those. They got a little bit inventive in that first goal, and I do like it when teams are matched at least well enough. There's going to be a pretty solid 50-50 from Kuma. Zirxel not quite getting to that one. That was almost very tricky from Exodus as they're trying to establish this control once again. 2 players trying to force their way onto that one, so we're gonna have to march up the board, up the field. You know what I mean? Yeah. You get what I'm saying. Here we are, coming back with control. They might get another one quickly before Negative has too much time to set up. Just hits the side of the crossbar.
Chris nearly getting the read there. That could have been an amazing start for Relentless, but now it's the power play. We see Schmoopinator on a 3v1 in the goal line. This is going to be a lot of pressure for Hazard to try and clear out. Negative opting to leave that ball for Sorexel for the long clear. It does do well, but Exodus reads it. And now we see Hazard. How can they set up for this counter attack? Kuma's already challenged the ball. The over rotation from Negative, not well. And Kuma finding the open net.
That was a weird over rotation as well, because you see that there was like just a few players, there were a few players around who might have realistically been able to react to that play, but it felt like, yeah, they were focusing on things like boost, as you saw in the right-hand corner of the screen. It just was a bit, yeah, it was just a bit weird in terms of some of those plays and not getting back. They had the time, they just didn't make it happen, but this might be an aggressive one. And we're just clearing that one out last minute. Getting a demo, they should really comfortably be able to clear this one through. I don't expect it to be a goal here, but it's going to come cross-court. They might be able to catch something off this. Exodus has jinked it out wide, but that looks like it's just going to be buying time to rotate back.
Smoothinator trying to get a touch there, but he does get bumped out of the way, and that buys so much time for Relentless to get back into this. A nice little passing play by Chris and Exodus. Doesn't eventuate to anything just yet, but they are able to lock this ball into the orange side of the field. Kuma being patient, waiting for the dunk as Exodus is going to hit that backboard, but it's not going to be able to get the waterfall read. And now we see Hazard finally being able to put some offensive pressure on. Negative going for the double. Exodus bumping Schmoot, and the bump plays are coming in king right now.
Yeah, that was fantastic. I was so worried about that one. Knew that Exodus didn't have the angle, and they just managed to take out the player instead. It's a very risky play. You've got to feel in that sort of situation. So it's all going for that aggressive play across straight into the goal there. Revenant might be able to set this one up, but Negative, that was probably not the touch you were going for, but it's not going to be too dangerous. Still going to have control of that play. But yeah, Exodus, that was huge. And that kind of was the difference maker at the beginning half of the first game as well.
I always like to point out the 0 or the 1% plays that really make a difference. It could be like a boost steal in the corner on offense. It could be a bump play or even a demo. Those little 1% plays that can make so much difference when setting up a counter attack. And we're seeing that from Relentless, where they're just trying to go for those little 1%ers, get an awkward bump, get an awkward read, and set up for a really good counter attack. We see it here with Chris getting a nice dish to Kuma, who tries to get it to Exodus, couldn't quite cut the angle. Exodus having the patience there to not over commit to that play, and now we see a bit of awkwardness coming out from the side of Relentless. Hazard taking a shot, but Kuma does get credited for the save there.
Yeah, it was very scrappy for a while though. Not maybe what we wanted to, not the composure we wanted to see, but at the end of the day, ball doesn't cross the goal line, and that's the most important thing. That's going to be a good setup. Potentially, Kuma's going to clear it out wide, getting proactive early on the play. But yeah, I think that's the thing, and I think that's something which I'm impressed with, the fact that they're going for a lot of these awkward, potentially even risky plays, of course, Relentless. But the fact that it doesn't feel like they're ever getting punished, they're still reasonably high percentage plays in the grand scheme of things, is what I'm liking about it. They haven't overextended too much in the context of this game, either on attack or defense, and I feel like that's kind of also the difference maker.
Oh, definitely. They are playing very, very smart, very comfortable as well. They're not, like you said, not overcommitting, but they're also very aware of when they should be creeping up and going for those good challenges, those good 50s to keep the pressure onto this Hazard team. We even see Kuma there trying to pre-flip into a touch, couldn't quite get it. And now it's going to be Hazard trying to set up Schmoopinate, a heavy touch, which is going to pop into Exodus's favor, though he doesn't quite get the pass off, which is what he was trying to look for there. Schmoopinator now getting a touch. He should be able to get a second. Can't quite with the waterfall read. And now there's an overcommit by Cyrexel. This could be dangerous for Exodus. Negative have to play it well. He does go for a heavy touch. Chris there with the pressure as well. And Hazard really struggling under this Relentless attack.
Yeah, that was I mean, they've done some very, very good things in the last little while. That might be it, though. That drop down sets it up for Kuma, and they held on for so long there. They had some good little plays. But eventually, they're just too many players being burned out in too many ways, just having to be forced out to different plays. I didn't see what that third defender was. I believe they're taking contest off the side, but eventually just a good capitalization. Good pressure from the side of Relentless. It looks like they're going to take a pretty comfortable game too.
Very interesting start, but it does show that there is a lot of pressure coming from the Relentless team. They do get a consolation third goal here from the kickoff. And it's just that, that real good consistency from Chris there. Kuma with the massive, massive cheat to get that goal. But it just seems Relentless now have the confidence and the momentum in this match.
It absolutely does. And I hear a lot of people criticizing casters for things like momentum, but really, like, when you're up in a game like this and you're playing off your buddies, it's so much easier to focus on the game. It feels so much less stressful and things like that. And kind of the inverse if you are Hazard right at the moment, trying to pull yourself back from this one. There's one at least, but 8 seconds left to go. They're not going to find another two, surely. And that was off the back of a few scrappy plays. Bit of a misclear from Kuma, given the pressure on them. But great play by Cyrexl to, you know, at least put it over the line, right?
Oh, for sure. And there's always that theory or that belief that eventually you might be able to get a couple of quick goals, especially if the kickoff goes your way. But all they need to do here, Relentless, is just waste time, take as much time off the clock as possible, and they've done exactly that. They will 100% get this second match and put themselves in a really, really good spot to sweep Hazard, which has looked really, really strong for all the qualifiers.
Absolutely. Like, I mean, I definitely was not expecting this series to go 3-0. I mean, I don't think anyone would feel 100% comfortable picking one team over the other. I don't think it was one of those games where you're like, oh, absolutely, Relentless is better, Hazard is better. But I am expecting the series to go, to kind of keep going forward a little bit further to kind of, you know, run with it as we go. I would be very surprised if Hazard doesn't have some more adaptation, some more kind of rally in their gameplay, and that's what I'm expecting, right? I'm expecting them to lift up in the series. Do you know, like, do you reckon we're gonna have a stab at figuring out what it is individually in like specific terms Hazard has to do to kind of take a bit of that pressure or the edge off Relentless? Or is it just like hope mechanics?
Yeah, a little bit, but also I feel like Hazard at the moment they're playing very, very safe, and they're not really being afforded the time to go for a really good first and second touch. That's going to be the defining factor. If they're able to control the ball and go for a second touch to advantage, then they're going to have a lot more opportunity. Right now, Relentless are just really shutting down all the time and space that they should be having. And actually, this is going to be a great start for Hazard. They see a good kickoff goal there from Negative. Schmoopinator actually getting the 50 win to advantage. But this is going to be a good mental boost for them to say that they can get the goal first, and they just need to hold on now.
Yeah, but it's like 4 minutes and 58 seconds. That's a big ask. I mean, you know, I'm sure anyone who is a fan of the side of Hazard would like to see them score a couple more goals, especially for that confidence and things like that. You don't want to win off like you don't want the kickoff goal to be the one thing which wins you the game. But they have stepped up the aggression. They're playing faster. They are getting demoed in the back, but at least they're like forcing out these more aggressive plays and things like that. They do lose that 50-50. That was pretty huge for Kuma, but just able to capitalize on that. A quick demo coming through as well. Exodus isn't going to be able to find this one surely. I don't know if Negative will get a clean clear off this one. Has control at least for now, but it's just going to be Chris who gets the touch on that one. We're back to that position we were talking about before, where Relentless just have control at the moment. They kind of just hold on to the game, hold on to that control until eventually they can find a missed position or an overextension and just get a score off it. Looking a lot better now. There's Smoopinator does find that sidebar. Unfortunately, Chris doesn't get the clearance out, so Cyrexl might have set something else up. It's Smoopinator going for this one, but it should be a clear out. Two static defenders in the goal, and that is going to be that big downfield clear. Oh, this might not be ideal. Negative. This might not be perfect, but Cyrexl is able to clear that one out, and we're going to be back to potentially the Relentless pressure on the attack, but that was actually a fantastic play to keep this ball back in defense.
Yeah, Schmoopinator really hustling for his team. You know, he's putting a lot of pressure on the Relentless team. He's making them force mistakes, which is what you want to see. You want to see those forced mistakes and then to be able to capitalize. So we're going to see Cyrexl try and do exactly that. Couldn't manage the second touch because he didn't have the boost, but Negative, what a pre-jump. Manages to cut it mid-air there and get the second goal. 2 for him in this match right now. So really, really good stuff. And this is where we were talking before about just taking the time and space away from Relentless. If you're able to pre-jump and you're able to get in their face quickly, you're going to have so much more success. And we're starting to see that now.
And I really like the fact that Cyrexl set up a few opportunities there. Like you said, wasn't able to get the second touch off that off the backboard, but at the end of the day, was still able to set it up and pull a lot of aggression off. It's going to be a risky clear. 2 players committed for that one. But at the end of the day, it's still a clear, and there's not going to be any big problems there from that one. Exodus going to get the above goal clear. And they should be able to turn the pressure around. But yeah, I mean, like, Cyrexl doing fantastically. Schmoopinator as well. There's another setup here. They can find another one right now. Get that 3-goal lead. Sure, there's still plenty of time on the clock. You got to feel very comfortable if you're a Hazard fan.
Oh, for sure. Like right now, they seem to have a renewed energy within them. They're seeming very, very confident, which is what you want to see. And as we said, Hazard, one of those teams that can really bounce back from being an underdog. So we're going to look to see how well they are able to adapt here as Negatives trying to put some pressure on. Gets a nice little dunk there from falling into the right place at the right time. Doesn't manage to get anything dangerous. Exodus being challenged by Cyrexl will keep this ball locked in for now. but it will be Chris trying to move forward. And at the moment, we're seeing Hazard just challenging really, really quickly, forcing out some really heavy touches from Relentless and giving some good opportunities to themselves.
And we haven't seen that dominant, relentless possession play, and not like that. Obviously, you kind of identified why that was, but that's a good sign. That's a fantastic sign for Hazard. I mean, good opportunity here potentially for Exodus to score. It does take a couple of defenders to clear that one out, but they do eventually do that. And the counterattack immediately from Cyrexel. These aggressive plays just feel like they're that much more concise. Very nice little change. That was very showy. I liked it. Very calm. And they're gonna have to make sure there's a good defensive line here. And Cyrexel actually takes that pass fantastically. Was able to kind of take a bit of time with what they're doing. I think the patience as well is good. Cyrexel gets demolished again, so we should see a clean clear out from Kuma.
Hopefully we see them, just kind of make a little bit more obvious decisions on terms of their rotation. We're seeing Relentless actually doing some shallow rotations, which is keeping them in these awkward positions. And Swoopinator, just taking advantage of this shallow rotation here from Exodus. Couldn't quite get a touch, and then Kuma felt really, really awkward. And this is where it's going to just be that easy put-in goal for Swoopinator. So very, very strong showing in Game 3 from Hazard, as they are currently down 2-0 in the series. So this was pretty much all or nothing. They needed to win this match here to make sure they progress, and at the moment they're looking strong.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And they're also getting that like see and punish. The second a mistake is made, they're on top of it. I mean, some of these errors have been like a little bit larger, but like they're gonna happen at every single level. And that is still a sign of a team who's kind of got a feeling for the game, I think, as well. This might be a big setup here. The goal could come through. Negative just getting a nice little comfy clear off that one. But the attack is still back on. Relentless living up to their name. They have a 2-goal buffer advantage, but I'm sure they'll want to get competitive into this one as well to show that they're still, not just in it, but they're still feeling themselves as they were in the first 2 games.
Exactly right. Cyrexel taking a touch, but heavy, so Exodus can follow. Now we're seeing a passing play with Exodus and Kuma. Can he get the read? He can't. Negative now is going to set up for the opportunity. Swoopinator not really in a good position there. Hopefully he hasn't DC'd from this server, because there was some server issues. Still stationary, and it does seem like he has lost connection, so it's going to be a 2v3. Unfortunately, because we don't have RLCS servers, we aren't able to pause the match, and all they need to do from this point, Hazard, luckily, is hold out 20 seconds with this 3-goal lead. It is a big ask, but they do have the capacity to do so. As we see Chris going for a bit of a solo play, but negative manages to get a touch, but it's awkward, and Exodus does score. Hopefully, this isn't a resurgence or a comeback.
Yeah, and I mean, when you've got like a 3-goal lead, that's not the worst time to lose someone, I think. It's when it's like those close, intense matches where you're going tit for tat, goal for goal. But it is still a little bit worrying. It's always unfortunate when these sort of situations happen, but there's very little we can do. There we are. That's a 2v2 now. There's a nice little demolish. Still 2 seconds left to go, so like I say, we expect to see this one go the way of Hazard. Ball is up high. The second that's going to hit 0, I think we've pretty much got our confirmation there. There it is. Ball just has to touch the ground now, and that should be our 3rd game. Sorry, I can count. It's fine, I promise. And yeah, Hazard take that one back.
That would have been such a really disappointing situation for Hazard if, Schmoopinator did DC with more time and Relentless was able to come back and win that match. It was going to be one of those feel bad moments where you almost kind of don't want to play, but at the same time, it is a competition and you do have to kind of press forward. So luckily for Hazard, they are able to take a small break and we are able to reset this lobby, make sure that everybody is able to get back into it. But just a couple of pointers about that match from Hazard was they were a lot faster in their gameplay. They challenged things so much quicker, and that allowed for some mistakes by Relentless, which they, in the first 2 matches, did not have a lot. So they were able to adapt quite quickly.
Yeah, and like adaptation is so key in Rocket League. It's such a fast game. In other formats and other esports and things like that, you have these big, grand, overarching games and things like that, where you have so many opportunities and things to to actually kind of get back into it, to play these games out and to have like plenty of time to build your momentum. But Rocket League's a harsh mistress. It just kind of, if you get hit with a series of quick plays, that's it. That might be your series just about over. So these quick adaptations and pivots and things like that really do mark out a lot of these phenomenally strong teams. So, yeah, we like, and like I say, we're just getting the server reboot. I mean, it's Rocket League. I think generally speaking, I don't know too many titles who are happy with the state of their servers outside some of the big mainstream ones. But yeah, we have this in just about every tournament, so it happens. But we want to make sure that there is the best performance for our players, and honestly, I want to see these teams play it out at the best conditions because I think when they're at their peak, they can be very exciting.
Oh, for sure. The level of gameplay that can come through in these matches is always really, really high. Some of these players obviously really contending for those top 16 positions in OCE. And it's going to be a really good platform, especially this particular series, to get a lot of good practice in before the next RLCX wave. So it's going to be, like you said, some really, really good gameplay. But unfortunately, I don't know what it is with the OCE region. It just seems like we're not getting the correct kind of support in terms of our servers. So it's a very much a classic OCE meme to have a server reset at least once or twice within a series. But hopefully, now that the server has been reset, we're not going to have any further issues, at least for the remaining of this series. And we can actually see some really good gameplay. Because the last thing we want to see is a player DC and then a team go through or get that win kind of a bit cheaply, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I absolutely would not blame teams for doing that because, like you say, it's a competition. You kind of have to, right? Like,
Mm,
but you it never feels good for anyone really in that circumstance. Like, I think that both of these teams know that when they're playing at their best, they can beat their opponents, and I think to have that like taken away from you, to have your opponents just not be able to play that, it kind of it bites a bit. Like, sure, a win's a win. We take those, all those classic memes, but yeah. But I do like the fact that like we were talking about before in the state of the series itself, and we are relatively early into this, well, very, very early into this league. So realistically, there's a lot of time for teams to kind of make their mark, come back, kind of get these contests and things like that. But you don't want to start off with a loss. I think realistically, I think starting off the season with a loss feels terrible, and both of these teams are going to have that extra little bit of drive and whatnot to kind of push forward in this series, of course. um, yeah, we've got some incredibly talent. Like I'm looking over this, and there are some good names in this,
mm.
these lineups as well. So I'd be terrified of these teams. I'm so glad I don't have to compete in these tournaments because it's just like I'm just looking at this. I'm like, oh god, they could do well here, and they could make a good run, and just like yeah, that's why I guess I'm highlighting the stakes of like individual losses and things like that can make such a difference in the grand scheme of a tournament, especially in like like I said, a single round robin format where you only get to face each team once in any given kind of bracket. That's like you want to make an impact with every single game.
Oh, exactly. You want to obviously come out swinging and, try and go for that win at every point. But also, the good thing about this particular tournament and the way that the staffing and the production team have done it for Bluebirds is they do have the opportunity to verse every team. So one team will verse the other five, and there's not going to be that discrepancy of, oh, I didn't get to verse this team, so we don't really know
Mm.
if they should be in first position. So there's going to be a very, very equal opportunity for everyone to do well. And that means that we're going to have obviously a really dynamic leaderboard as well. For those that don't know, the way this works is obviously everyone versus each other once. And then at the end, the top four teams will be going through for our, I guess, our finals day where we
Yeah.
do our quarters, semi, and grandy. So, there's equal opportunity for everyone. And if you don't get the first win, it doesn't mean that you're completely out. It's not like a Swiss tournament where you go down and up. It's equal opportunity, and it's going to be exciting. So either way, we're going to obviously have some good gameplay, but now we're starting to see whether Hazard can lift, considering they had the first two games go down in the series. Now they've got one back, so it's 2-1 in the series, and they can get themselves a reverse sweep potential, but they need to win this game first.
Yeah, that's it. That's always the thing we have to say when we're casting. It's like, oh yeah, here are the theoreticals, here are all the ideas, but you have to actually prove it. Here we go. Game 4, of course. Like you said, Relentless taking the first two. Hazard with a big, big scoreline as well, relative to the other games in that third series. They looked controlled, they looked stepped up. Negative gets another quick one. We saw this happen last game. Bit scrappier this time, though, to be fair.
Yeah, a little bit scrappier, not as quickly as before. Obviously, the first one was at 2 seconds. This one's now at 11. But what I liked is the pressure that came through from Hazard. They were ready to just come out of the gate swinging. There was a bit of a team bump that led to a bit of a misrotation early on for the side of Relentless. So they need to kind of work on their rotations a little bit just to make sure they're avoiding each other as much as possible. But it's very, very minor things that are going to lead to these opportunities. Cyrexl getting a touch there will mean that Chris can now come through, gets a flick past one, tries to get a bump onto Schmoopinator as well. Can't quite do so. Now Schmoop setting up for his own counter attack, but Exodus gets the read.
Yeah, I mean, Schmoop had plenty of time to kind of run through with that one, but I think that was pretty well kind of understood from both sides. I probably wasn't going to move too much further up. Schmoop gets another opportunity at it. Cyrexl managed to get it past two of the defenders, forces all of them out of positions. There's an opportunity here, a big one as well. Chris just managed to flick that out to the side. And I mean, Schmoopinator is going to want to set up this again, and this is that kind of extra aggression we like from Hazard, extra pressure. Cyrexl almost gets one. Kuma has to find a clear out. This goes to that defensive corner, but just immediately back on the attack. This setup, this kind of control is looking great from Hazard as Cyrexl tries to set up another attack. Just bounces past Exodus. Exodus gets a touch onto it. And we're seeing that kind of midfield hold right now. And it's trying to, the main thing right at the moment for Hazard is trying not to give up too much control to their opponents and trying to make sure that eventually they can force out one. Here we go. Chris has to be the one to clear that shot out. But it has given a potential opportunity for Negative to try and set up the next play off the crossbar. But Cyrexl doesn't quite grab it. It's Schmoop who goes for it. And this is just attack after attack after attack for the side of Hazard. And this is looking fantastic for them. Pretty well like a few shades of the last game, in fact.
Oh, for sure. Their offensive rotations are really, really strong, but that's a missed touch there. Cyrexl trying to go for the pre-jump, doesn't get the read that he wants, so he tried to pull out of the challenge so that Negative could come through. You can see Negative jumping there for the read, but just didn't have the reaction time to plan for Cyrexl's touch. So a bit unfortunate there from Hazard after having such a strong attacking pressure for most of that opening couple of minutes.
Yeah, and it's not the end of the world. It's kind of one miscoordination. It's just the sort of thing which can tilt you a little bit, but I'm sure these teams not going to be tilted by a single goal. They've played ladder. They've had worse. So, you know, it is Negative jumping up. Actually does manage to keep that pressure straight back on. I mean, they have to make sure they don't give up anything awkward. Like, you identified that rotations were good, and that does kind of feel like it's Cyrexl. Does make the most of that situation. Just bounces up to get this. It's going to be the lone defender for a few seconds here, but it's okay because right at the moment, Kuma can't quite find that connection on. And actually, that was a very nice touch from Negative to keep this pressure on the attack and immediately establish that with that soft tire touch. But yeah, the momentum being flipped around again, and it does feel like Relentless is actually getting a bit more of his attack as well. Now they've kind of got that goal, they've lifted just a little bit, and they seem to be playing with just a little bit more space as well.
They do seem to have a bit more space. One thing I'm noticing is that we're seeing a lot more redirects from passes from both teams, so they're really good opportunities. But hold the phone, Schmoopinator coming out of nowhere. Gets the dunk onto the defender there after a nice challenge there by Chris. And that's going to be a very nice second goal for Hazard. And we're starting to see the momentum shift in their favor from getting the previous win. So Hazard now stepping up to the plate.
Yeah, I mean, we said that Relentless was starting to play with space, and they have one small miscoordination. That's one apiece for both of these sides, but the closeness of this series, I absolutely do not blame them for this one. There's a push it off the crossbar, and Negative just doesn't quite find that one on target, thanks to Kuma's very kind of solid defense there. Exodus just going to wait to take this passive first touch, but it was actually Cyrexl who gets that one. And they might have got another one for themselves. The Demolish is going to not shut that one down, but confirm the counter attack or the follow-up. The rebound play is going to be a little bit less aggressive. Chris taking the 50-50 against Negative. It kind of goes to no man's land there. Just forced another one. Next time is Exodus who steps up to the plate. An opportunity here to get a good cross and possibly a score. The pass off to Kimmy was great. There's two players up on the crossbar, and that might have been enough, though. That was fantastic play back and forth, burning the defenders, pulling them left, right, above, and center, and eventually just finding that connection. We're seeing these teams definitely step up on attack.
We are definitely, and one thing that I liked about the placement of that that shot coming from Relentless was it drew out two defenders, and that allowed Exodus to actually come in for his own goal. So it was a nice placement coming from the first attempt to allow for Exodus to come through for that cleanup. So drawing out the second defender is always going to be good, as Negative almost missed that one, hitting the woodwork, but it does have enough English in there to manage to get in. So Hazard coming through with the counter attacks very, very effectively, even though they do let a goal pass. So regaining their 1 goal lead. Now with 1 minute and 19 seconds remaining, they're looking quite good to get this to a game 5, but they still have to make sure they don't concede any goals from here on.
That's it. With 1 minute left, it's not the hardest ask in the world, but given the fact that this game has stepped up in terms of the score lines, and this has been quite a fast scoring game in the second half. You can't kind of just rest on your laurels at all, Chris. It's a good redirect. Actually messes up negative just a little bit with that momentum, and it should be Exodus trying to set up the secondary attacking. And the pressure going in from Relentless is much better. It takes Shmuvinator to try and find a clearance out that one, but the attack is not done. Kuma finds the back of the net once again. We're even. 43 seconds left to go, and the momentum has just been ramped up a bunch.
It definitely did, but that entire play kind of sprouted from the fact that Negative got a really awkward touch in the corner, drove it directly into the middle of the goals, and all three members of Hazard committed to that pinch play and kind of just left the ball in an awkward position. And at that point, they couldn't really get the rotations in order to stop the attack coming from Relentless. So it's interesting to see these little 1% decisions that are costing the teams at the moment from having some more clean rotations. And there we go, Exodus just capitalizing on these rotations, capitalizing on the additional pressure, and is able to get the goal and take the lead away from Hazard late in this game 4.
Yeah, and this is the game for. I mean, correct me if I've done my maths incorrectly, but this is the match point for Relentless, or serious point, I should say, for Relentless as well. So right at the moment, you're really wanting to get these goals. You're really wanting to try and make sure you can make these aggressive plays happen if you are the side of Hazard, but it's looking like a bit of a struggle right at the moment. They're forced right back on defense. They had a few struggles in that defensive line. Oh, that was very close to being a goal, but Chris just on the wrong side of that shot. Remember that right now, Hazard has to find a big clear. They get the pass off. Negative puts it up high, but I don't know if there's going to be anyone to pick this one up in any serious fashion. Cyrexel gets it. A big double commit. It's off the top. Surely someone can put this in, but Exodus just clears it out, and there we go. Relentless take it in the 4-game series.
Oh, that was a really good setup by Cyrexel. He managed to draw out 2 defenders to commit to that play right at the end. Unfortunately, no one from Hazard was there to be able to capitalize on it. And as you said, Relentless now taking it 3-1 in this first series. Quite comfortably, I would have to say. Relentless did look a little bit uncomfortable for a moment there in game number 4, but they were able to capitalize on a couple of mistakes by Hazard. A bit of unforced errors, which you can't really help, but it did contribute to quite a lot of success for Relentless. And it just seems like Hazard, like I said, they're not completely out of it, but it just means that they do have a harder start in this mini league series.
Exactly, and I think that what we talk sometimes about, and you kind of touched on it, the fact that those misexecutions and misplays and things like that are hard to fix in an individual game, and you can't really blame yourself too much for that because it happens to everyone realistically, and it was Relentless who got the upper hand of those in the course of this game. But it's something you can improve between games. You can sit and you can just practice your mechanical skill like every day if you want. So I think that that's not a terrible thing to be kind of falling behind on a little bit, but at the end of the day, it did feel like it was a very close series for a lot of it. Of course, it looked so much right there like Hazard might have taken that last game. Would have taken us to a full best of 5. So even though the scoreline did end up with Relentless taking it, Hazard still putting up a very good showing.
Oh, for sure. I feel like Hazard definitely have more to show for us, and we will see more of them later down the traps as well. Might not be on stream today, but we'll definitely see more from them. As we said, they are playing 3 matches today, so they could potentially still go 2-1 at the end of the day. It will depend on how they are able to bounce back in their own mentality to set up for the next match. Because I know that with playing ranked and you lose a couple of matches, it does affect you a little bit, but these players are so well versed in Rocket League that they will have the mentality to get back quite well, hopefully, and we should see more from them. But that's going to be our first series done. We still have 2 more to go, but that will be after a very short break. So don't go anywhere. We'll have a quick break, and then we'll bring you our next series.